Are we live? Are we
We're
back?
on.
Let's see. I just want to double check here. Gotta love going live. That's part of
Okay,
the.
that's why we have to be iterative and flexible, right? All
Yes.
the stuff we were talking about.
And yes, we
Never
are.
know what life throws at you.
Exactly. So thank you guys. So sorry about the inconvenience there. But we did have some technical difficulties, but we're back. Just can't fail. Learn the lessons. So we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what lessons to learn so we can try to minimize our chances of this happening again. So, all right. But thank you all for being here. So let's pick up where we left off, Nicole. We were talking about Sir Richard, and I was stating how my wife had asked me recently about someone, an entrepreneur that I look up to or that I find, and it is Sir Richard Branson. He's been someone I've been on my kind of list for a long time because I really feels like he really lives in the moment and someone that really enjoys the resources that he has, and don't take himself seriously, but also seem like just a good dude. And so obviously you can speak a little bit more accurately around that than I can, but he just seemed like a good guy. Seems like he like I said, does, you spoke about authenticity and like, you also, I forget something else you mentioned about, what was the word, the term you used, like social, what was the word you used?
Conscious? Social
Social
conscious.
conscious, yeah. And he seemed to align with those things. And so he's someone, so it's awesome to kind of have, 6 degrees of separation that they talk about for someone that has such a close relationship or working relationship with him. And so with that being said, like that kind of takes me to this next place. People may know, but they may not know about Necker Island and its beauty. And you've been there 7 times.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So how has that been? Like, what is that like? I would love.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just as amazing as you think it should be, but not for any of the reasons that you might think it is. So for me, it was honest to God, and it feels like I'm writing from a script, but it was the staff. He has collected like the most easygoing, fun, down to earth, up for anything people who just like live on the island with him. Well, not with him, but like staff the island that he resides on when it's not being rented out. And they all wear a lot of hats. So you have hosts for the day, or you have like the water sports team could take you kiteboarding or water, whatever, all of that stuff. You've got masseuses, you've got the chefs, but it's like a family. It really operates in a very informal, comfortable, familial way, which is the coolest part. So if you're partying late night and you want a snack, you don't have to ring your bell or go to room service. You literally walk into the kitchen and there's normally someone hanging around, or like you help yourself behind the bar. It operates like a home that you are a welcome guest on. And I think that experience on Necker is one of the best. And you're totally right about Richard. The authenticity, I think, and I kind of filled some of the fodder when you were frozen by talking about, I think it comes because he genuinely loves people. So he wants to connect. He wants to know about you. He needs to figure out what makes you tick, what is inspiring to you. And then he kind of remembers and plays that to his advantage. But Necker itself it's tremendous. I love it because it's unpretentious, like as pretentious of a place it is. As much as you have to pay to be there, once you are there, it sort of is just where you are, and it's just easygoing. I don't like the stuffy restaurants where you're afraid to use the wrong fork at the wrong time, or sit at a tablecloth where you just can't ask a question about a menu item you don't know. And I'm a foodie. I love going to restaurants. And that's what you would expect of maybe a place like Necker. And it's not at all like that. It's just the most cool, down to earth place ever.
Awesome. And what brought you to
Necker?
Yeah.
So my role, ironically, I first went before I even worked for Virgin Unite, because I worked for a hotel and spa property out in West Jersey. You guys should all look it up. It's called Natirar, Natirar. It's Raritan backwards. And it's a 500-acre estate in Somerset County, Peapack, Gladstone. Bernardsville, whatever, a bunch of those towns out west,
Yeah.
Jersey. And the owner was someone I knew from previous life. Like, honestly, I used to babysit his kids in high
Okay.
school when I was in high school. And he went to Necker for his 40th birthday. He had just sold his company and signed a 10-year non-compete, and was so massively inspired by Necker and the lifestyle there that he's like, I want one of these in my backyard. So he found this cool piece of land, this cool piece of property in Jersey that was formerly owned by the King of Morocco, that
Oh
was for
wow.
sale, that Somerset County was trying to buy, and he struck like a public-private partnership with them, and then went to Richard and like delivered him the business plan. Was like, here, I found you a property for another Necker in the US. And I started working. I worked with the founder, Bob Wodowitz, for about 7 years as his right hand, his chief of staff, did everything. And through that process of trying to make it a Virgin limited edition property a la Necker, met Richard, met his assistant Nicola. We eventually built a membership club out at Natterar as well. And we'd take the members to Necker every year. So my first trip to Necker was with the members of the club at Natterar, and I was blown away. And then that obviously progressed my relationship with Virgin and the people that I knew through that. So when it was time for me to move on and, you know, my next stage of career, I actually just had an informational interview with Richard's former assistant that I had become friends with. And she's like, actually, she was 6 months pregnant or something at the time. She's like, my maternity cover fell through. Would you like to interview for my job? And I was like, hell yeah. So I interviewed, and it was only a 6-month contract, but it ended up being about 4 years. And then my role at Virgin Unite was to take high net worth donors to Necker Island as like it was basically a fundraising trip.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
So let's come back to planet Earth after all of this Necker and beautiful private island. And so absolutely. But that's awesome. So Nicole, what was your kind of getting back to, you know, you feeling like, you know, you wasn't in alignment and things like that. What was your biggest challenge or frustration before coming back to JCF in October?
Yeah, I think it was really like there were so many things, both because of the climate of the world last year and the pandemic and everything, that were out of my control, that I felt forced into a lot of these elements, right? Like my life looked so different because I had 2 kids. I couldn't really work in the way that I did because so much I did was community based and sort of event related and experience driven. So all the professional endeavors kind of came to a screeching halt just when I felt like I got my groove, because I just kind of went back out on my own, not too much before that. As a consultant, there had just been way too much travel again with Charity Water, as much as I loved the organization, and my kids were suffering and I wasn't getting enough sleep. And so I kind of decided to leave Charity Water in the not corporate world, but philanthropic, you know, more professional, that element of a corporate world, for my own freelance entrepreneurial endeavors. And it was just finally getting in the groove, as I mentioned, not great on the operational side of things. So like figuring out my stride, and then the bottom fell out from underneath me. And I was so angry because I'd been I'd been doing a bunch of ClassPass, so I could do it in the city, I could do it here. Every day was different. I'm a bit of the ADD, so I like switching it up. And I felt like I was in a good routine, and then everything just stopped. And I was angry that it stopped. And I was angry that my husband could continue working. I was angry that my kids' school shut down. I was angry it was just angry. And that so much of it I felt was out of my control. And then after, you know, it's like the stages of grief. After your anger, you come to sort of, you even out maybe a bit. And then I tried to pick myself up or redirect myself, but it was never really fruitful. I finally started working out again. I basically took like 2 months off just because I was pissed and then got into it. And but I got into whatever was convenient because obviously I couldn't go places. So I was doing a bit of yoga. I was doing some running. I was doing here or there. Nothing was really yielding the results. I wasn't sweating enough as I really knew I needed to be or wanted to be. And so I felt like it was an opportunity for me to finally get in control, to control one thing. If I could only control one thing, it would be that. And that's what eventually pushed me into making, you know, the commitment to myself, the financial commitment, the timing commitment, because, you know, you have to think about it on all those levels and figure out how it's going to work in your life.
Absolutely. And so it seems like, you had the exercise piece and the workouts happening. I mean, you were kind of bouncing from thing to thing. And so what role do you feel like, the nutrition and accountability played in the success that you've had up to this point?
I mean, huge.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I had not, I had continuously gained weight. And again, I never thought I was eating unhealthy, right? I'm not the girl who goes for a bag of chips at like 11 o'clock at night or a double scoop sundae, or I drank too much wine, which I knew kind of going into it was my Achilles heel in terms of calories and maybe more sweets than, but I always had a salad. I always had stuff. So it was crazy that it would make me so angry that I felt like I was working out and eating quote unquote healthy and
Yeah.
nothing was happening. So I feel like, having an expert like yourself or the JCF team, and just someone like holding your feet to the fire, like you've committed to yourself and doing this is a huge, and I had accountability buddies, like people would be like, did you work out, or how did you do last week? And
Yeah.
but it wasn't to the extent that it actually would help move the needle. So to have like such a, not rigorous, but yeah, like, definitely standard program that you get accustomed to following, and then someone checking in on you made all the difference. And again, the fitness the food, the nutrition, understanding that is clearly something I think I joked to you last coaching session we had. I'm like, I just don't get the science behind it. So I'll follow your instructions, but I need to know exactly why I'm doing it along the way,
Yeah.
which you do a great job sharing. But yeah, I didn't understand a lot of that. And so just getting that advice and getting that expertise was hugely helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. And so I want to touch on, because this is something I get quite a bit. So if you can, is that, I eat healthy. That I get that so
Mm-hmm.
much. And so if you was to look back, hindsight is 2020, right? If you was to look back retrospectively and take a look at how you were eating versus how you're eating now, which has
Mm-hmm.
yielded, 18 pounds down, I believe, 18 to 16
Yeah, I
pounds
did the
down.
math. It's 17 and a half. And
17 and a half pounds down since November. So what would you say has been the biggest difference, like the way we're eating now versus how you were when you felt like you were eating healthy?
it's a great question. And when I say I was eating healthy before, I was probably eating healthy like 75% of the time, right? Or 70. And by healthy, I'd think turkey meatballs. This is a message I sent you the other day. Like, I hate to cook. I am not someone who is like excited to be in the kitchen and figuring out what's for dinner. So I would throw in turkey meatballs that I'd buy at BJ's and, do it with marinara sauce and eat whole wheat pasta rather than regular pasta, and feel like, okay, it's something that we all eat. But the turkey meatballs had a ton of macros or whatever it was, stuff that it shouldn't have in it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just a combination of that. I had these turkey strips and I'm like, it's turkey, it's good, it's just marinated, but they were marinated a ton of oil. Again, quick dinners that I felt like I was cooking because I actually had to put it on a stove, but it wasn't coming up with fresh ingredients and building things.
Yeah.
So I think that was just falling on the slippery slope. And I remember all those years ago doing the grocery store tour with you too, about sticking on the outsides of the aisles. And some of that I've really carried on. Like I'll never forget, I gave up sweeteners in my coffee for good back in 2013 because I'm like, Dara says I can't do it. I got in the habit of not doing it. I've never done it since.
Awesome.
And like agave in my yogurts. I don't buy the yogurts with the fruit on the bottom and all that extra stuff. And that I even did in between. So here I am. I'm like, from 2013 or whatever it was, I'm carrying through on Darius's like tidbits and helpful coaching things, but it obviously wasn't enough. So those were the mistakes that I was making.
Got it. So what turned out to be, quote unquote, what you thought was healthy eating was healthy for the most part, but it wasn't as in alignment with the results that you wanted to achieve.
Totally.
Awesome. And listen, you've done a great job. And the beautiful thing about it, Nicole, is that even though we have made some tremendous strides and your nutrition looks much different than it did then, and just really being diligent around getting those, what I call the trace macronutrients. So that was the word that I used, the term,
Got it.
with
I
the
gotta write it
turkey.
down.
Those trace macronutrients. Anyone that's listening, that is the challenge, is really focusing on, when you're consuming foods, if your goals are to lose weight, if your goals include losing weight or changing your body composition, we really want to be cognizant of the trace macronutrients that you may be consuming. So what I mean by that, if you're eating something or eating meals that has a ton of fats and carbohydrates, you really want to try to limit to one of those. Kind of pick an either or sort of mentality when it comes to your carbs and your fats versus all in some sort of mentality. Yeah, exactly. So that is going to be the key. So we've had, and that was one of the focuses that we had with you, Nicole, is really sort of isolating kind of either or fats or carbs, and making sure we're having a good amount of vegetables, making sure we're having a good amount of protein as well. And then it's an either or when it comes to the carbs or the fats. But you've been doing a fantastic job with that. So like back then, when we look back in October, November, what do you feel was your biggest challenge then that you wanted to sort of get a handle on?
I mean, I guess it's the food, it's the eating. I mean, still I'm struggling with dinners. I feel like I have breakfast and lunches pretty well figured out. Like there's enough in that, within, like I call it approved foods, or like that works. But yeah, getting the handle on like how to eat and when to eat and holding yourself accountable to eating that way. It really all is around food for me, because as I said, I really like working out, but being able to put it together and then understand how it's moving. And of course, then you start losing weight and you want to keep it up because you want to keep losing weight. And I feel like I'm doing it in a healthy way. It's not like I'm starving myself, which is when I said I was going on this wellness journey that my mom's like, don't you dare start starving yourself in XYZ. I'm like, no, that's not, come on. Do you know me at all? That's not my style. I think that, and the drinking was really hard, especially initially for me. I had been, in quarantine, gotten some bad routines, and, was not living a life that I was accustomed to. So a lot of stuff had to change. And I felt like just to take a deep breath at the end of the day, I needed my glass of wine. Yeah. Even when I think back, I did dry January in January of 2020, and I loved it. It was great, but I was drinking like kombuchas instead of drinking a vodka or a wine. And even kombuchas are not really, Darris approved, JCF approved, at least in the way that I was drinking them. So like figuring out what I could do to supplement, have a hot tea with lemon, or have hot water with lemon, or, whatever it was that would make me miss wine or drinking. And it sounds so bad. I promise I wasn't an alcoholic, but it was just part of my routine that really was the most difficult at the beginning, trying to shake. Yeah. And now it's much, much easier.
And so I want to touch on that a little bit with, kind of developing the habit. And when I say habit, it just maybe, you were consuming alcohol more than what you would usually. And I think the times, quarantine and the pandemic, and I think it kind of lended itself to that. Right. Totally. And so with that being said, if you can kind of, what rut did you feel like you fell into? And what was the thing that I'm more so interested, Nicole, in what was the mindset? What was the thing that kind of get you to have the right perspective once you felt like, this is not kind of the person I want to be? Like, what was that thing? Yeah, what was the thing? Like, what was the moment or whatnot that made you feel like, I want to go in a different direction?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer. I think it was, they say that the best thing about rock bottom, and I can't say I hit rock bottom, but there's only one way up. And I was just like, my career doesn't feel good. My family doesn't feel good. My house doesn't feel good. Like all of these things. So what are the little things that I can do to make something change here? Yeah. And this was something that I only needed myself to do, basically, right? Like I didn't have to rely on my husband working less hours. I didn't have to rely on my kids' school being in person versus being virtual. I didn't didn't have to rely. So that was something that inherently felt empowering. And I was like, I feel like I can do it. I bumped into, ironically, Zara, who's
Shout
another
out, shout out
longtime
to
member
Zara.
who I
Yes.
knew from when I knew Melissa S. And actually, I saw Tara just rejoined JCF recently, I guess, too.
Yeah.
So some of the really old cronies that I remember from long time ago.
Yeah.
And I saw her at a soccer game on the sidelines where kids were playing together. And she's like, I'm still doing JCF with Darius. He's fully remote. And I was like, it never even, like, shame on me that it didn't occur to me. And I get so many emails, I don't read them as I should. But that was just the push I needed to remember how much I enjoyed, working with you, coach, and the workouts that you did really suited my personality and what I needed. And she made it feel so achievable, right? Like it was just not a big deal. You had the morning ones, you had an afternoon option, and you had an evening. And at that point, I was really focused on trying to find something at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So because my kid was only going to school half day, so I didn't want to work out in that very few hours that I had to myself. I wanted to do it when my kid was around so that I could dig into work when I was home by myself.
Yeah.
And since then, I've just continued to evolve. And I'm like, screw that. I don't have to work out at 1 o'clock. I can make myself get up at 6 a.m. and do it every day if it's important to me. And I realign my priorities and figure it out. So I think it was a combination of factors. Again, it's like the universe speaking to you through a bunch of different, it was that moment that I knew I had to do it on my own, and then bumping into Zara at the side of the soccer team, reaching out to you and getting a quick and warm response. And, it just all seemed to fall into place the way it was supposed to. So
Awesome. Awesome. And so you mentioned alignment. I want to, what does that mean for you? What does it look like when Nicole is in alignment?
Actually, I probably have a better answer because I've been talking to you or coming up to you. I feel like it's the best version of yourself, right? It's just, you feel like you're, and again, a little bit of Gabby Bernstein, you're vibrating at a high frequency. You are doing what you can for yourself, because you know that it's actually good for yourself, but good for all the people around you, and hopefully better for the planet. And it just has these residual rings, or, like the raindrop analogy.
Yeah.
And I think being able to just feel like you're comfortable in your own skin, you're working hard, you feel good about working hard, builds your confidence that you can do things, right? You can do hard things, or built to do hard things. And it just all rolls from there. And again, it's these small steps initially, and then you take enough small steps and the whole picture looks different. And that's, I don't see a whole different picture yet, but I have taken enough small steps that I feel really good about my path, my, streamline to seeing everything differently.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And what are some of those, anyone that may be listening and that can maybe benefit from your story, what were some of those pillars or cornerstones that you felt like you had to get on track to ultimately feel like you are in alignment? Like, where did that start with you? What was the first domino you sort of knocked down?
I think waking up early, right? Like getting to start my day before my kids start my day for me, right? Like taking control of that. And having a reason to do that with JCF obviously was hugely helpful.
Yeah.
And even the days now that I don't do JCF, I'm waking up at the same time every day. So I think even just forming some of those routines, those habits, which I referred to earlier, stupidly, idiotically, I like revolted against routine much of my life. I'm like, no, I'm here and there. I'm everywhere. It was hard to keep a routine when I traveled a lot. I thought it was overrated anyways. I know I read enough about kids. I know kids need routine. So I've tried to put it in place for them, but it never really catapulted itself into my realm and what I needed to do for myself. So I think waking up early was a huge first step, and just knowing how my day was going to go. And then having some of these hard conversations, even with my husband, who I look at, who's sitting, right? But like, I'm going to work out every morning from basically 6 until 7. And even the days I don't, I want from 6 to 7 for myself. Can you get the kids going, get them started? And I'll take over at 7:15 or 7:30. But like having to push him and ask for something, right? And typically I don't ask for a lot, to prioritize myself and to prioritize not only my physical health, but it really has impacted my mental health.
Yeah.
And I think, again, having the confidence to do that, and then his support to like come and say, yes, I want you to do this. I'm here for you. I love that you let me know. I love that you asked, because now I know how to serve you.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I don't do well, but it all just, it compiles, it builds upon one good act, and one good habit builds to another. So I think waking up early and then asking for what I needed really kind of kicked it off for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Love to hear it. What are you most proud of so far? Right? We back into it. We're getting into alignment. Tremendous progress thus far. Not just, I'm big on mindset and mental game and emotional game. And like, I'm a huge believer. A lot of that mental and emotional fitness can come from physical fitness and physical activity when we allow it to happen. Like, what are you most proud of? Almost 3 months in, you're doing a lot of great things. You're back at it. Please, I would love to know.
Can I say my muscle? No, I'm kidding.
Absolutely. It all
No,
counts.
I think I honestly, it sounds so, I think I'm just proud of myself that I'm doing it, right? Like that I have made the commitment, that I'm the stick-to-itiveness that like, can come, cannot come, that comes from the accountability of showing up and people, texting you if you're not on the Zoom workout at the time you say you're going to be. I'm really proud of the 17.5 pounds, I have to say, but I didn't really do it for that, right? Like, it's nice to have a tangible number goal that you're working towards in terms of weight loss, 100%. Excuse me. But for me, I knew that I had to do something to jumpstart everything else. Yeah. So I feel like the stick-to-itiveness, more so than the pounds on the scale, is really what I'm proud of. Even like, my family doesn't eat great all the time either. My kids are picky eaters. Like, they'll order Raza. The best pizza in the damn country is across the street from me, and they'll get it once or twice a week. And I'm like, oh, I just want it so bad. But yeah, and then, figuring out how to see that as a win rather than a loss has been a huge part of this too. Like, me not eating Raza is a win, not a loss. Yes. So reframing a lot of that thinking, which comes a lot from you too, is just your outlook and the way that you are interpreting what is the sacrifice for.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I totally received that. Thank you so much. I have a couple of things. So if you like Raza, I don't know if they're still open, but you got to try Luzzo's in the city.
Ooh, Liu?
No, Luzzo''S.
Okay.
So anyone that's been part of JCF on the team over the last, I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, they know how hard we rock with Luzzo's.
Oh my God, good.
Blow your mind. It's
I'm excited.
It's right off of the L train. It's been so long. It's been like a year since I've been in the city, I feel like. But it's right off the L train on First Ave between 13 and 14, I believe, or 12th and 13th.
Oh, so it's super easy from Jersey City.
Super easy.
Oh.
Luzzo.
Are you trying to get me in trouble? I thought we were talking about
I'm not, because that's going to bring me to my next thing, is that this is the beautiful thing, is like we have been doing a lot of great things well. But the point that I want to make is that we're not doing anything perfect, and you're still having all of these changes. So for the person that may be out here thinking you have to do everything super perfect and to the book, you really don't. Now, do the majority of those things have to be done well? Yes, they do, but it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And you do not have to starve either, right? And so, like, if you're doing that, then there's definitely a better way than what you have been doing.
Should I tell them about my 8-pound gain in the middle of this 16.5 pound loss?
Right? Absolutely. That's part of it as well.
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, please do.
Thanksgiving, birthday, Christmas, and my family, big Italian family, they like to eat, they like to drink, and I just didn't want to have to calculate it. So Darius was super helpful in thinking through a plan with me. You're going to do breakfast really well and lunch really well, and then do whatever you want to do at dinner, and then have dessert and have wine, and but then the next day you come back and you work out super hard and you make sure. So I think that ability, or the the fact that I felt like I was allowed to not fail, but just give myself a little bit of grace, knowing that it didn't mean I had to fall off the wagon forever, that to have something that I truly enjoyed. And you know what? Every bite tasted twice as good, because I have not been depriving myself, but because I've been so focused, when I quote unquote cheat, I just appreciate it so much more. And so it was really hard to like see the scale go the other way and so quickly, but then just as quickly, thank goodness, because my motivation might have been on shaky ground had it not bounced back pretty quickly. But once I reframed and wanted to start off the new year and really know that 2021 is my year to get it done. And again, I kept posting on Instagram, no one called 2021 their year. Please don't jinx it. Like, tread lightly, take it easy. But
Right.
like in my own head, I'm like, I have a plan to really vibrate at a great level for 2021.
Absolutely. And so I think a couple of things I want to touch on is contrast. Contrast is super important. It's the only reason why happiness is happiness, and the only reason why it carries any value. It's the only reason why weekends carry any value, because there's contrast between the weekdays and the weekends. And so the point that I'm making is that we really have to take it all in and understand it's part of the process, right? And so, the biggest thing is that the one thing I want to really just commend you on is that you didn't get down on yourself. From my perspective, I think that is real life, and that's life. And those are the things we really have to learn how to sort of navigate when it comes to nutrition and prepping and workouts. It's like, how do I do these things when I am busy, when there is a lot going on? It's really easy to focus when there's nothing going on. So like, we don't have to put a lot of energy there. And so kudos to you for, stepping into that. But also not fretting and like just following the plan. Like that was the huge thing. Like you just got back on plan. You didn't allow one day to become 2 days and 2 days to become 3 days and it snowballed. We got right back on track. And so as long as we can do that, as long as we can keep the streak alive, as long as we cannot put up a zero, these are all of the ways that this becomes something that is sustainable. Right. And so from a tactical perspective, my big focus, anytime we have this opportunity, like if there's an opportunity where we can go off the rails, the key is to make sure you have your plan for the day after. So even if you don't have food prep for that day, you have to make sure you have a plan for the following day, and you have to get back on that plan ASAP. Right. And like, these are all of the things that we discussed. And these are the things that you followed and you stuck to it to a T. And that was a big thing of success. And like, I want to commend you again, because there's so many people that I work with that, if they go up 8 pounds, like they may lose, excuse my language, but they may lose their shit. And for you, you just kind of trust the process. You were coachable and you stuck to it. And so kudos to you for doing that 100%.
Thank you. And I love the fact that, we're playing the long game here, right? Like, I like that as much as it could be daunting to hear at the beginning, as you're starting off on this new process, like baby steps again, but you're not doing this for quick weight loss and then you go back, right? So how can I create a sustainable plan? And I think giving yourself grace in the midst of it is a huge, huge component for it for me. So I think that goes to your coaching as well, to help us think, obviously, right now, what are you doing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? But also, let's look at this in 12 months or whenever it is. Absolutely.
Because no one wants to be in shape just for 12 weeks at a time.
Correct.
Like, the game
That's what happened to me the first time around. That's what happened to me in 2013 and 2014 when I had a baby. Best shape of my life, but I had a baby.
So I want to, the name of this show is Just Can't Fail, the Just Can't Fail stream, right? And so I'm big on reframing. You use that word and you've been doing a great job of reframing, but reframing failure. I think this is something as a humans that I think we leave a lot of stones unturned here. And I think it causes us a lot of pain, whether it's disappointment, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's falling short. Like, I just think it causes us a lot of pain because we don't view failure with the right lens.
Mhm.
right? And so many times we have that first sort of bout of failure, whatever that may look like, and we stop, not knowing, not understanding how close we may truly be to success, and not having the right lens of understanding what are wins. Like for you, you mentioned that just not having Raza is a win, right?
Yeah.
And that win can again knock down other dominoes to keep you in the game, so you really achieve the thing that you truly want to achieve, right? And I've had this conversation with so many people. Sometimes not gaining is a win, right?
Mhm.
But so many times we come in with this false expectation around that, and some of that is on us as fitness professionals, right? Because we market things a certain way, and I've been guilty of that. Excuse me, I've been guilty of that myself. Um, and I lost my train of thought, Nicole. What was I going to ask you?
Reframing failure. Reframing failure.
Yes, thank you. So reframing failure. So with that being said, like, what are some of the, and we can take it from a nutrition, fitness sort of perspective of like, but what are some of what's been your biggest failure in your life so far?
Um, Failures. Interesting. I mean, not trusting myself, I think, is a huge one, right? It's like we talk about the oh, what's the complex now? The I want to say inferiority. It's not that. It's the anyway, where you think that nothing you do is good enough. You've been
Is it
there.
imposter syndrome? Or
Imposter syndrome. There you go. Yes,
gotcha.
imposter syndrome. Where
Yeah.
like, how did you end up in Necker Island? Like, who are you to be talking to Richard Branson? Like, again, all these things where you're just like, you're doing the best thing you can for yourself for right now. Who are you to lose 17 and a half pounds? Like, why do you have to go and do this? I think, and I don't know if I call it a failure, but it's definitely something I'm always battling against and
Mm,
battling through. Failure. I mean, I feel like sometimes it's leaving my charity water job feels not like a failure, but it was really hard to get going in my own LLC and figure out my direction and how I'm going to market myself and who I'm going to be.
yeah.
Um, and then when I finally felt like I figured it out, the world changed and, and the bottom fell out. So that felt like
Yeah.
a failure.
Yeah.
And like for some reason, again, it's reframing the way that things have been done or what people think. Like as horrible as this sounds, but I'm going to be real in who I am and how I was raised in my education process. Being a stay-at-home mom for the most part right now feels like
Mhm.
a failure. And I'm
Mm.
like, that is so bogus, right? Like we have to be grateful for the opportunity to do these things, even if it's only a moment in time,
Yeah.
but just across the board, not letting external factors dictate your happiness and you figuring out, the silver lining through it all. I feel like that was a very roundabout answer, but it's about questioning yourself and feeling like you're allowed to be happy or not be happy. And if you're not happy in that moment, go figure out a way to change it and
Yeah.
iterate, keep moving through. Nothing
Yeah.
has to stay the same way forever.
Yeah.
There's been lots of like touches of failure, but again, as you say, like failures are just other opportunities disguised as something else.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah,
and so, what have been any? Have you learned any lessons from the roundabout failures that you?
trust yourself, like trust your moment. Um, Listen to your, head, heart, gut, as they say. Really try to get in tune with what is most important to you at that moment, and it's okay to change your mind,
Yeah.
right? Like it's okay to continue to move through a process. If you're staying still, you might as well be dead. And that comes with, professional advice, family advice, all of it.
Yeah.
I think just keep trusting and keep growing and keep questioning. um, I suppose is what I keep learning about these failures, not letting them be failures, but feeling like they're stepping stones to your next opportunity.
100%. Soil, not dirt, Nicole. Soil, not dirt. It's a lot that can come from soil, right? Lots of
Love it.
nutrients that can give growth and
Yeah.
and nurture. And so that's the right mindset there. And so what's been your biggest takeaway so far from the coaching program?
I mean, I think your optimism, I think you have an innate ability to, get in people's minds. It's funny. I started telling my kids too, like, now I'm going to botch it, of course, because I'm doing Facebook Live, but like chip away. That's what I keep telling my kids too.
You chip
Like
it away.
I have to do 50 burpees without a break. Are you kidding me? I think that was Tuesday's workout. Like chip away. And now I'm telling my kids when they don't want to do homework, they don't want to set the table. I'm like, just chip away at it little by little. So I feel like a lot of those Mind Right Mondays, having, as I said, as a daily, I seek inspiration, and having just like a jump start to my day with inspirational tidbits that just clink around in my brain all day long is awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like that's a huge takeaway that has helped to, and will continue to push me forward. Right.
Awesome.
And that you talk about it as soil, not dirt, right? Reframe it. You're a huge part of
Yes.
that process.
Awesome. Awesome. What advice would you have anyone that's looking, that's looking to lose, you know, that's looking to lose, 15 plus 20, 30 pounds? Like what would you give anyone based off, if you can bottle up what you've done, what would you tell anyone?
That you can do it. It seems impossible and daunting, but it's absolutely achievable. That don't get in your own way, right? Like literally, you are the obstacle. You yourself are the obstacle, and if you allow yourself to be. So remove obstacles, remove that like daunting feeling, imposter syndrome, whatever it is, from your mindset, and almost, to be super repetitive, like chip away, take it one day at a time. It's what they say in Alcoholics Anonymous and all of those coaches, right? Like you can only control this moment in this day. So
Yeah.
if you think about it in bite size, every time I think about, oh my God, I can't have a drink or I can't do whatever, it seems too overwhelming. Like I don't want to deal with it. But if I can make that decision, if I can plan ahead, make that decision and just kind of operate. Again, I feel like I'm contradicting myself because I'm like, plan it out, but operate in the minute. But you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
like, it's totally achievable if you just take it as steps rather than the entire process or project all at once.
Absolutely. I heard a quote, "Be where your feet are," right? And so
Mm,
it's essentially being present. So many times we're trying to, like you're saying, we're trying to worry about
mhm,
we're creating problems that don't even exist. What happens when I do that? Well, like we're not there yet. We'll cross
right.
that bridge when we get there, right? So like be where your feet are, and focus on where you are and be present.
Yep.
I do have a question. So something I thought was like super critical, and like really, because I experienced that with my wife as well. She essentially enrolled me into her fitness, and like I
Love
think
it.
that was really critical. You asking for help of your husband, and like
Mhm,
being, I need this time for me. And shout out to the spouses that support
mhm.
their spouses with getting fit and all of those great things. So, but like, what was those steps? I think for some people that may be hard. I've had
It was
conversations with
hard
some
for me.
women, where it was like they felt like it wasn't even existent. So, what were some things that you did to have that conversation with your husband for, to enroll him in this thing for you?
I mean, it took a little while. It wasn't like day one, and I started doing that. It was advocating for yourself, essentially, right? Like we talk about closing the pay gap and women and men and all of this, like it only comes when you ask for it. So in the back of my head, I knew that.
Yeah,
I've also been doing a lot of work through this process, but also separately around me and
yeah,
like what I can do to make myself happy. So it did take probably a good 6 weeks or so into the program when I decided I wanted slash
yeah,
deserved to do the 6 a.m. classes, and I couldn't do it without a bit of his support. And at that point I had gained enough confidence, and it
mhm,
wasn't even about the weight loss, it was more about the way I was thinking about it all, to say, you know what, it's okay that I need this. it's it's actually expected, and if the roles were reversed, I would just be expected to take on the extra time with the kids or the additional. So let's flip it, let's rewrite that dialogue and just say, this is what I need and I deserve it, and I work my tail off.
yeah,
So like, if it's, again, and it was a bite-sized ask, it wasn't like I was asking for 5 hours every other day.
yeah,
So making sure it was something that could slice into his life without too much of a headache, and then say it doesn't have to happen right away, but let's talk about it. Maybe it can happen 2 days this week, and we can try for 3 days this week, and then before you know it, it became a routine of our own that we sort of progressed into. So I
Yeah.
think, again, giving yourself grace at the beginning, to build up your confidence and understand. Again, as I said, I thought I was going to do 1 p.m. workouts, and then I'm like, no, this isn't. Like, just keep living through. What works for you one day won't always necessarily work for you the next. But when you finally found something that works for you, being able to have a common conversation and find some common ground and advocate for yourself, in a process, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. And I do to any other, because I know my wife always, this is something that I forget what she used to say, like, you'll be all right. Like, you'll be all right. You know, like, it'll be fine. Maybe a
You'll
little
figure
bit
it out.
different exactly. Maybe a little bit different than how I do things, but you'll figure it out. And so um, all my bros that may be watching, we'll figure it out. All my spouses, your spouse will figure it out. But
Yep.
definitely lean on, and for someone that may, like, you are a union for a reason, right? And it's
Mhm.
not for this to be a solo thing. It's for two people to come together for the greater good, right? And so,
Mhm.
like, I want to encourage any moms or dads that may be, having that maybe non-mom, non-dad, but that may not always be okay with asking for help and
Yep.
advocating for themselves.
Well,
Uh,
and again, selfishly, like, the ripple effect benefits the spouse too,
yes.
right? Which is a hard thing to realize until you're kind of in it. Because then now I'm in a better mood. I'm more open to doing dishes. I'm not like, well, you didn't help me with it. And
Yeah.
it really just makes everything better.
Yes.
So it will benefit you in the long term.
It will. So, any of my bros, just make sure you advocate for that and you support that, because everybody does 100%. So, Nicole, my final question, and before I ask this, I truly want to thank you for your time.
Oh,
I
you're the
really
best.
appreciate it. Thank you for
Very
being so coachable as well. So it's been an honor having you back. It's always great having our OGs, our
Yeah,
green bloods back.
veterans.
So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
And so
you.
my final question: what would you tell someone that may be interested in JCF, um, but maybe on the fence? Like, I don't know. What would you tell that person?
I would say, examine what's important to you, have a conversation with Coach Darris, and then there should be no doubts in your mind after that. Like, you have to be ready, of course, as you say, Darris, to make the commitment, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
making the commitment to yourself, not to
Yes.
Darris, not to JCF. You have to make it to yourself. So if
Yes.
you're ready to make the commitment to yourself, this is the easiest, most fun, most entertaining way, most, like, accountable or way to go do that, to go
Yeah.
make that commitment to yourself a reality, and see your goals through. I mean, I think the relatable aspect to you, to the team, the way that you work out. I mean, I love the boot camps, the way that the app works really well. So if you want to weigh in every day, you can. If you don't want to do it every day, you don't have to. You take pictures when you can, measurements when you can, but it feels really good to watch how many workouts you've done, check off on the app. Like, there are little confidence boosters, or attaboys along the way, virtual high fives all through your workout.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
little things that you're not in it alone, and that there's other people following the same path with you. And JCF and Darris just make it fun. I say easy because, like, the app is easy and the program is easy, but you know what I mean. Like,
It's
as easy as
simple.
you can make it fun.
Yes,
Simple. There
it's
you go.
it's very simple. Yes, we
So you
made the
have to work
process.
hard.
You have to work hard. Yes, but yes, we have made the process as simple as possible for sure. And so you got started with our 21-day at-home program, our remote program. And so what I'm going to do is offer
Sorry.
three people um, an opportunity to do this 21-day program for free as well.
Woo!
And so, Melissa, if you just got to go to JCF. Can we have that up, Melissa? JCF Extreme dot, I think, as.me. There we go. And so we're going to offer that to the first three people completely free. So what you would do, you go to that link you will sign up to speak to me for just 15 minutes, and that is it. And then we'll go over all of the details of that. So for 3 people, I hesitated. I did 2, but we're gonna go 3. 3
Good.
people,
I like
and
your
you can
generosity.
and you can be anywhere. Anywhere. You don't have to be in Jersey City for this. And so 3 people, 21 days, drop 10 pounds. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't I drop 10 pounds in that first
Yeah,
3 weeks?
but you dropped 20 in 19 and a half days. I was looking at the
Got it.
the interview that we did today, actually. So
Got it.
19 and a half days, you were down 10 pounds. So you was
It's
excited to
awesome.
kind of get more done within those next 2
Totally.
days. All right.
Totally.
So thank you all. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Coach
much,
Jared.
Nicole. Yes,
You're the
absolutely.
best.
Well, thank you so much. You
Appreciate
have a
it.
wonderful night, my friend. And so I'm going to stay on a few more minutes to see if there's any questions and get that up. But thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. So, gang, thank you all. Huge shout out, and thank you all that stayed with us through the technical difficulties that we had. Remember, this stuff is all soil, no dirt. We learned from the technical difficulties. I don't know if I really did. I don't know what the heck happened. So, but we'll try our best to ensure that it don't happen next time. But again, if you are wanting to be a part of our 21-day remote challenge, okay? That's 21 days, 3 calendar weeks. You'll get workouts, you'll get nutrition, you get accountability, you get access to our brand new app. You can just go to JCF Bootcamp. Search JCF Bootcamp in any of your app stores to download it. However, you won't have access to it until we invite you to it, okay? So as I said, you don't have to be here. We can be anywhere. And be a part of that. And so you just go to JCFX Extreme STREAM.AS.me and just book a 15-minute call. And what we're going to do on that call, we're just going to go over your goals. So we're going to talk about any medical history, any of those things. We're going to speak about nutrition because those are the key elements. Exercise is super duper important. The nutrition piece, the accountability is going to be more important. And even though this is free, we still want to make sure that you are a good fit, right? Because sometimes free is still too expensive, right? And so what I mean by that is that people don't take advantage of it because there's no skin in the game. So I want to work, if you're one of the 3 people, I want to make sure you're a good fit. I want to make sure you're coachable. I want to make sure you're going to actually follow the simple plan. You don't have to starve. We're not huge believers in that. And you can still have your goals. I want to shout out Marion. Long time. Great to hear from you. Ebony, you've been a regular, Ebony, so thank you all, and rocking with us almost to 10 o'clock. We've had some technical difficulties, but we're going to shut things off in about literally 30 seconds because we're way past time. Okay, gang? But I want to thank you all. I want to also shout out the awesome Melissa S., who's behind the scenes, getting things together, producing our Just Can't Fail show. I know she's going to love this. So I want to thank you, my friend, for doing such an awesome job and being in my head. And so thank you all for tuning in. Thank all of you that was on the first stream and we had to cancel that one and jump back on. So I appreciate it. You all have a beautiful evening, and remember to continue to treat yourself every Thursday, right? Treat yourself Thursdays. Not only, hopefully you start your day with some good movement and some journaling, getting your mind right, some sort of spiritual practice, some sort of physical practice, emotional, mental practice. And then come check out us at 8:30 every Thursday for our Just Can't Fail stream. We're going to keep bringing you some really great stuff. And so, gang, you all have a beautiful night. Again, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. Take care.